Good morning, world. This is Steve Rao. I'm Pod of Roku TV's World Edition. I reach you live today on the show where we're going to talk about world politics. I'm actually in WVTF radio station in an office here, and it's great to be here with you today. Today, as we navigate around world politics, we prepare to discuss Ukrainian Independence Day, which is August 24th. What does the Ukraine war mean for all of us, and what do we need to do to win the war for Ukraine? We also, though, all eyes on the room tonight as President Obama will be speaking along with former First Lady Michelle Obama at the Democratic National Convention. And everyone is getting ready for Vice President Kamala Harris to accept her party's nomination on Thursday, and then one step away from the presidency of the United States, as the race does seem to be tightening up in many swing states. We'll be talking about that and other international and global issues and what the world is thinking of this election and what the world is going to be expecting from the next president of the United States. What are the expectations for the president of the United States? This is my new look, my glasses, but I'm going to take them off today because my eyes are getting a little tired. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our panel. Today I'm here for about 27 minutes and I've got to get onto a call. But we're going to bring in Mark Lee, Rick Rosner, Sasha Starr, and the team. And looking forward to a good show. But a big night tonight, the Democratic Convention. All eyes on the Obamas coming in to endorse Harris in front of the Democrats. We're going to be hearing from other Democrats, and they put on a good show last night. So we'll see now as the countdown begins. I was supposed to be in Chicago, but my daughter's moving to Kenya, Africa next week, Nairobi, and I decided to cancel my plans and be here so I could be with her at home and enjoy some quality time with my daughter. So I'll have to wait 4 years to go to the next Democratic convention, but hopefully then Kamala Harris will be the president of the United States. So it'll be even more exciting. And the good news for all of us is Donald Trump will not be able to run again. So will it be, honestly, if J.D. Vance is the forebear of his party 4 years from now, I think it's looking pretty good for Democrats, but that's just my 2 cents. But anyway, what are you guys' thoughts today?
I saw something on one of the news channels that I thought was interesting, that somebody was saying that this looks like an Obama election, the vibe and maybe the numbers. And this person said since Obama last ran for president, the voting population has become 3% browner, which I think, even though I'm not brown, I think it's a good thing because, the white people, not all white people, but the white people who are upset about, dwindling, white demographics have not been good stewards of American values. Similar to how, the Christians making the most noise in support of Trump, I don't think have been the best Christians. So,
hey Rick, just along those same lines, and I don't know your thoughts or maybe your thoughts and everything, but one of the things that I heard there was a criticism is that people are wondering why some folks haven't been put out to the pasture, including some of the brown folks and all along those lines, because Jesse Jackson was there yesterday in a wheelchair, got a pretty good introduction and everything, but then I heard, and I read a lot on social media as well, that there were people critical, because I think he's speaking, I'm not sure if it's today or tomorrow, but there are people that are asking why is Clinton still in the kind of like the face of the Democrats, particularly when Clinton has had some issues of himself with what people say is an important issue.
But they don't hold office. They're people who, former first lady, former VPs, former presidents, and everybody except Carter among that crowd, the Democratic former high office holders, is showing up at the convention to support Harris. 0 former Republican high office holders and first ladies are showing up to support Trump. And not many of Trump's cabinet officers support him. I've read anywhere from 24 to 40 of Trump's former cabinet officials aren't supporting him this time around, having worked with him.
But Rick, in that same lane and all along those lines, I did see that one of his spokespeople, their daughter, and actually thinks the daughter and the husband are actually at the Democratic convention, because I did see on Twitter where Kellyanne Conway's daughter is actually at the Democratic convention. I think she's there with her dad and everything along those lines. So it sounds like that even though Kellyanne is trying to promote Trump, there are even members of her own family that are not supporting Trump. And all of
that rift has been going on since Trump was president. That's, and they're not married anymore.
Right.
So we have Sasha Star that has a point, and I think Sasha, go ahead. And I think
you were asking what the world is expecting from the United States in its election.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what it is. It's a normalcy. It's return to normalcy. That's what the world is expecting. It's not by an accident that all previous Republican presidents and officials, they did not show up on the Republican convention. Neither Bush, neither any other leaders. And you know what the reason is? That the line of Republican presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan and then Bush Sr., then Bush Jr., it was a continuation of the same policy of Republicans and overall, especially foreign policy, of United States since 1945. And both parties, there was agreement what that policy should be, and whether it was Republican president or Democratic president, that policy was never adjusted, changed, or shaped in any way, form. And Trump has changed everything. He deviated from the normal the policies of the United States for so many years, including Democrats and Republicans. So, unfortunately, the Republicans, they are very cowardly people, and starting from 2016, they sold Trump completely.
Absolutely. Well, real quickly, what I'll say, Sasha, that's a really great point I think that you made, and I think before Rick goes, I think what people also expect of America, which has to be identified, is what is the United States of America's role in the world? And I think we're seeing a lot of focus from Harris so far on domestic issues, housing. She was in Raleigh talking about pricing, healthcare, middle class America. But I think also the world is very disruptive right now with what's going on in Israel, with what's going on in Ukraine. Sasha, you and I talk about this all the time. What is the role? What is the United States' role in terms of negotiating peace and freedom and opposing dictatorship? I mean, part of it is, I think, an important thing to talk about on world politics is what is the benefits of an isolationist foreign policy, where you say, like Trump says, well, forget NATO, forget Europe, let's just focus on U.S., America first, America first. I don't think that's good for any of us around the world, because the United States of America has always been kind of the leader that's fought and led these efforts, working with other countries to bring peace and prosperity to other regions of the world. And, Kennedy put it well, before I go to Rick, that not only what America can do, what we together can do for the freedom of man. And I think that's something important.
Steve, I have a bad news for you. The problem is that U.S. is not fighting some kind of an enemy like a normal country. It's fighting the very concentrated effort of Putin, who feels that Russia was unjustly humiliated after USSR went apart, and he wants to take a revenge. And that revenge is taking incredible toll on all free society. There are over terrorist acts elsewhere. There are thousands of spies in United States and Western Europe. There are wars in Ukraine and in Gaza, Israel. There are Iran, who is supported by Russia. And the only one country he took on Russia one-on-one is Ukraine. Ukraine is doing the job for all civilized world with this brave army. They are fighting Russia, which was considered second best army in the world. And not only they're defending the Ukraine, they even went as far as 800 to 1,000 square miles inside of Russian territory. That's unheard of. Since Second World War, there was no foreign army on the Russian territory, and there is nothing they can do now for third week. And all the world now, in the view of this development, they have to absolutely load to Ukraine with all kind of weapons. Send like France is considering to send a foreign legion, and to shore up Ukraine, because if Russia at the end of the day somehow will crush Ukrainian incursion and will defeat Ukraine, then the West is facing Russia, which is now ready, after if they ever will take over Ukraine, to invade Poland, Baltic states. It's a NATO territory, and US will be forced to fight right there in Europe. And now US soldiers will be involved. Or alternative is, if Trump will win the election, he will draw back US army from Europe, from Asia, from Israel, from elsewhere. And that will be a new US. It will be a mini US tied up on the borders with Mexico and Canada. And there is no purpose to have $1 trillion military budget and nothing. It's,
I mostly agree with Sasha. Russia is a second-rate country, behind us, far behind us technologically, half our population, but it doesn't cost much to disrupt Western democracies with propaganda. So earlier, Sasha, you talked about normal government. So technology is going to transform the world more than ever before in the next couple decades. And we need normal, sane government. Doesn't have to be perfect in order to support technology. We're 4% of the world's population. For every American, there are 24 people who live elsewhere. We have, for the past century, we've been able to attract all the talented people from the rest of the world to do business with us, to help us build companies. And if we have a crazy president and crazy politics where they can't be somebody who takes bribes from Egypt, somebody who, is, countries aren't going to want to send their people if they think they might, nobody should go to Russia now, because Russia, you might get taken prisoner. If we have some weird deportation police, other countries aren't going to want to send people. We need normal government, though imperfect, to allow technology to flourish in the US the way it's flourished since World War II and made us the leaders of the world.
There is another problem. According to Project 2025, all agencies as FBI and CIA and so on, it will be under the president only. They will not have an independent agency status. There will be puppets in the hands of president, which supposedly should be Donald Trump. So with that setup, it's going to be Donald Trump who will decide to pursue this individual or that company and what to do. It will become a purely autocratic state. And that alone, even if Trump is 500 times brighter than Kamala Harris, and he is greatly experienced, and he is fantastic in any way look, and he is more beautiful than Kamala Harris. Just that alone, that he will become a dictatorship, and the Supreme Court already clear up the way for him to become a dictator without any responsibility, that alone has to provide mechanisms of all kinds for Kamala Harris to become president.
Calvin Coolidge, the president 100 years ago, said the business of America is business, which means government just kind of has to be chill and just help things run smoothly and let business, everybody's throwing around accusations of communism, but no, freaking, capitalism with some guardrails, let it do its stuff and keep America, to use a cliche, great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think that it's just, I mean, we don't know where this election is headed, but I think there's just a lot of issues that are really, really very divisive. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see, kind of like how the Trump camp responds now to these conventions. Right?
But we've already got one response, and I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts about that, because there are other people that have their own narcissistic ways and everything. So apparently yesterday, Trump said that he may end EV tax credits and is open to the possibility of naming Elon Musk as an advisor. So he's saying that he wants to give what he calls brilliant Elon Musk a top job after the election. So he's even saying that Elon Musk may have a role in his administration. So what do you think about Elon Musk maybe even running the Department of Transportation or something along those lines?
He did that for Elon because Elon gave him 40 some odd $1 million. So Trump was against EVs up until the point Elon Musk gave him money. And now he's trying to do everything he can to keep Elon Musk giving him money. So to what Steve said, we already know what the response is going to be from Trump because he's constantly doing that already. He's already doing his negative responses. I mean, everything that he's put out ever since, from the AI photos of communism to all the craziness he's talking about. He's not going to talk about policy. Trump's game has never been policy. He was the guy who could bully other people into doing what he wants to do. So, of course, what Trump is going to do, he's trying to find a name that sticks so he can sit there and call Kamala names. So we already know what the response from that is. And then what will come from the GOP is a justification of him saying these things and then going to some policy position against what Kamala Harris states, because the actual GOP currently has no platform outside of Agenda 47, which is no more than Project 2025. And as much as Trump tries to run from Project 2025, he can't, because that's where he got his judges from, and the Heritage Foundation, and the Heritage Foundation has so much there. So yeah, Trump's Elon thing is nothing. He's saying that to pander to the man giving him money. And then to Steve's point, we already know what they're going to say on the other side, how bad Walz is. They're running with the stolen valor thing, which is crap. They're calling Kamala idiots. And so, yeah, it's just horrible.
No, new information that Elon Musk is now privately supplying Russia with the best possible trained and well-equipped. They're basically elite forces to fight Ukraine. And he is doing that privately. I don't know, according to US regulations, if he is even allowed to do so as to equip the foreign power, which is unfriendly, obviously, to United States. But it feels right if Donald Trump will win presidency, because in that case, Musk is helping Trump's friend Vladimir Putin. That makes sense. Now, if Trump is not going to win, then I would love to see investigation on what grounds he is, as a private citizen, can equip the enemy's army. I would like to see what is behind it.
This is an interesting point and everything. Hey, Steve, I had a question for you, because you brought it up a couple of times in our past conversations, this notion that there wasn't really a slogan for the Kamala campaign, but the new slogan, and it seems to be one that is resonating with people, is a new way forward, and we will not go backwards, and all along those lines. So do you think that those kinds of slogans are working? Because even the bus tour that she's on now, I mean, right now she's at the convention, but the bus that they are traveling with says a new way forward as opposed to an old way forward, and everything along those lines. So is that going to resonate with the
I hadn't heard it. I don't love it. She should just take Obama's old slogan, which I think was hope, right?
It was.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that slogans are good, but I think the biggest challenge I think for Vice President Harris moving forward is that the campaign, in my opinion, which is very interesting, has been a campaign. She's actually taken away the playbook from the Trump playbook, which is run a campaign of absolute sheer raw emotion with no details or facts about any of your plans, right? So build a wall, make America great again, thugs and murderers and rapists coming in, all these things, from the border issue, like exaggerate, but invoke emotion, which Trump has been very good at doing, in terms of the Trump base, the MAGA movement, right? Vice President Harris, if you look at yesterday, Secretary Hillary Clinton spoke, Secretary of State, former First Lady, but Clinton was a policy wonk, right? When she ran campaign, she was talking about every specific issue, but there's been very few policy briefings from Vice President Harris. But where I'm going with this is that slogans only take you so far. There will have to be details in terms of, okay, if you're going to roll out pricing, how are you going to reduce? Well, she's offering about affordable housing, but how are you going to reduce pricing at the grocery stores, right? How are you going to reduce pricing from there's some pricing concerns? What are you going to do with the border? Because they're going to be attacking her that negative. I think her strength is reproductive rights, but she is going to have to come up with those specifics, because if she doesn't, she's going to head into the general election when there will be a bump. But emotion can only take you so far. There's going to have to be details, because it's going to be the swing voters, the undecided voters, the voters that are paying more money for groceries, more money for gas, more money for a loaf of bread. Why would they vote for one candidate over the other, right? So Democrats have to get out of this honeymoon phase.
I have a question to you. All the policies at which Clinton was very good at, did it help her to win election?
No, well, it didn't, because she lacked the emotion, Sasha. That's exactly my point. She focused so much on policy, she didn't do the emotion. So with Harris, she doesn't have to do as much, but we got to give her credit that it's like a boxing match. When Rocky beat Apollo Creed, why did he beat it? Because in round 14, when Mick said, now, he went southpaw, and Creed didn't know what was coming, right? It's the same thing with Trump. He didn't expect it.
Tell me one thing.
Steve, didn't push back on the.
Do you remember how Mike Tyson was winning his fights? He didn't show super technique and great movements and jumping and screaming. He was killing his opponents in the first minute. This is when Kamala Harris, she has two unbeatable cards. Number one, finally yesterday, people woke up. The Democrats woke up yesterday. He is common. He's convicted felon. And they were talking about it every 5.5 minutes. They woke up. Because before, everybody was afraid to open its mouth. Oh, Trump, what, if I will say this, he will sue me. If I will do that, he may go after me. Finally, yesterday, Democrats woke up. And abortion issue, that's it. You don't need anything more. Why would people, regardless of policy, how to make the gasoline a little bit less expensive and save 3 cents here and there, you have convicted felon, you have the con man, and you have abortion issues. These two issues are all it's needed for Democrats to win.
Well, just to push back really quick on the, and I agree with Sasha in the fact that and I disagree, Steve, because we're only asking one campaign for details, only one. Trump has not put together a detail, and he's been running for president
No,
ever since he lost. And if you look at,
working well for him. It's been working well for him.
and it worked well for him in 2016. And also, it worked well for the GOP candidates that have also never put forth a plan. Because if you look at the GOP platform right now, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. And when Trump put out the no tips, it was Rick who pointed out that, or no tax on tips. Rick pointed out that Kamala Harris actually had more details on the taxes against tips, or the taxes, no taxes on tips, than Trump did. But yet we never really even discussed or gave her credit for giving details. So my point is that what she's doing, and if we go to that boxing analogy, because we don't want to do Rocky and talking about Apollo Creed, that was scripted. If you talk about an actual boxing match that had stuff on the line, and one of the most famous boxing matches was George Foreman versus Muhammad Ali. That is when the rope-a-dope came out. And what Muhammad Ali did, he let George Foreman wear himself out. And right now, if you look at what's going on, Kamala Harris is sitting back and letting Donald Trump speak. Donald Trump has no details, and people see that. Donald Trump is running this negative ads and coming up with names, swinging for the fences, trying to hurt Kamala, but nothing has landed. And so at some point, that is going to wear out, and Kamala can come in and say some particular things.
I have to go, but my final thought is that what works, a negative ad that they're playing every 5 minutes with the border, a smiling Kamala Harris who says, I haven't even been to Europe. And then it has a picture of terrorists and murderers and people that cross the border. That's an image that somebody is going to use, regardless of whether it's a lie, on how they vote.
I agree, but so is the image. But so is you also got so is the image of the little girl getting on stage saying yesterday that she didn't want to have her parents' kids. Which one?
We're going to find out on November 5th. If she wins, if she loses, if he gets the 300 electoral votes after everything that he said, then I think it's fair to say that we're living in a very sexist, homogenous country that will not accept a woman to be the president. We're going to find out on November 5th. I mean, it could happen. It could happen. We could wake up on November 5th and he hits 300 by 9 o'clock at night. We're going to know. I mean, let's face it. I'm going to end with this. She loses Arizona. She loses North Carolina. She can't hold they don't win Michigan. This is over. Okay.
Oh, I think we all agree on that. But also, right now, she's leading the majority of those swing states at this moment. Also, with all the Republicans coming out.
That's liberal media telling you that.
No, it's not. No, it's actual polling. You can take a look at 536 and all the other polling.
They were saying that in 2016, we thought the election was going to be 8 at night.
I get that.
Hillary Clinton.
I get that, but also the polling data is shifting back and forth.
I gotta go. Thank you guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Go ahead. Everything, but just really quickly.
Trump isn't constrained by the truth. In the last 2 months of the campaign, he's held less to account for his lies than Harris will be, than other candidates are. So he can get out there and he can promise all sorts of great stuff to Americans and may not get fact checked on it. So that's a handicap for anybody running against him.
But speaking of that fact checking and everything, just really quickly to tell me I think that definitely Steve might have been alluded to it, is because I've seen that ad. I know exactly the ad he's talking about. So there's this notion it definitely cost Dukakis the election way back when and everything. So there's this notion of those Willie Horton type ads, and that's literally what those ads are. Because they're basically saying because Kamala Harris did not hold these people accountable and they got out of jail even though she was the prosecutor, then they went and committed various horrendous crimes and everything. So is there no fear among the three of you that might stick? Because I think that's what Steve was alluding to, that those kind of ads may stick just the way that the Willie Horton ad stuck to a lot of people.
I don't think that's sticking, or at least not yet, because of the roller coaster ride that we've been on and the trajectory that she's on. it's not sticking because you got the whole border czar situation, which they're steadily trying to push that. The same thing with the Willie Horton stuff. People are starting to, and this is why, to even what Rick pointed out about the handicap of Trump, he's not being held accountable for the lies. This is why, again, I point out JD Vance. JD Vance handicapped Trump's handicap because people are noticing how shady JD Vance is and all the craziness that he's saying, which all he's doing is parroting Trump. And so with those ads, because of JD Vance and those lies, that's not sticking in the middle. And because of this positive, because if you look at the Kamala Harris ads, the ones that she approves, none of them are truly super negative. They're all factual, but they're not negative factual. They're not attacking him personally or calling him names and so on and so forth. They're still on that positive spin. And because, again, as we pointed out, that emotion, you can only stick with hatred for so long. And we've come to that point where people are tired of just the hate. And that's where the independents are. And that's where that's why you have more Republicans speaking or more of the opposite party speaking at an actual convention than any time that we've had, because we haven't had a ton of Democrats. We've had one or two speak at different, like Tulsi Gabbard or whatever, but you have legitimate Republicans, even diehard Trumpers, speaking and having big speaking roles at the DNC. So I don't think those ads are sticking, especially when you have like border mayors are now speaking up for Kamala. So that's attacking the whole border czar problem. And so I don't think they're sticking yet. And because it's on such a high, it's not going to affect it. You've got, 2 months till we start actual early voting. So it's going to be hard. I mean, with this bump, if it lasts for a few more weeks and then you've got the debate, and if that debate performance as well, you've got a good high to continue riding to the election zone.
I think stuff is less likely to stick if you're likable. John Kerry, it stuck to him. He wasn't a likable, he was kind of a stiff with a weird long face. Dukakis, it stuck to him. He was not tall. He posed for a goofy picture with a helmet on in a tank. Obama, stuff didn't stick to Obama. Obama's likable. Harris likable. Walz likable.
And also, let's not forget, and this is another thing that we don't. A reason why it's tougher to stick with the women's vote. The women's vote is powerful, and that is what this is. And the stuff stuck to Clinton because she had such baggage. She had been in the public eye for so many years, so many decades. People had time to really stick stuff to her. With this, Kamala Harris doesn't have that baggage. She doesn't have really a whole bunch to really attack her on. And then the African American vote. This is a powerful moment for Black women. And now you've got the Black fraternities and Black sororities doing like they did up under Obama. There is a buzz like it was up under President Obama with Kamala Harris. So those things are going to be tough to stick when that buzz is there. And then the big thing is the change in the electorate. I think we had spoken about this before, how at 2000, when 2016 happened to now, there are millions of baby boomers that have passed on. That's what carried Trump a lot. Those same people have gone. So now you have a young electorate where you're having a whole young demographic that is now going after the younger candidate that they can connect with. And that youth vote, honestly, is a powerful tool, especially when you have the influencers. This is why that Trump campaign is putting out AI images begging or saying that Taylor Swift wants you to vote for Donald Trump. So I'm sure that Taylor Swift is going to come out and stump for Kamala Harris, that Swiftie vote is huge. So these things have changed the electorate since 2016. And what Trump is doing the old same song and dance. And I think people are tired of it. And I mean, had there been a younger candidate, yeah, I think the GOP would have it, but not now. It's you have a youth against age. I mean, it's just
the latest shitty thing that Trump is rumored, or there have been reports that Trump, and I'm sure it's true because it just seems like something he'd do. Trump has been talking to Netanyahu, telling him don't make a deal for a ceasefire with Biden because that gives Biden a win. And that's illegal. That violates the Logan Act. You can't negotiate with foreign governments unless you are in government, which Trump is currently.
I mean, technically, we could probably say that he violated that when he had Erdogan at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of, like, he took a $10 million bribe from Egypt, likely, right before the election in 2016.
Yeah, he's had probably several bribes. Then the AOC make a joke that he would sell us for $1 or something like that. But I did have a question because there are people that are speculating that part of what's going to happen because they brought in two masterful orators, because I would argue that both the Obamas, probably more President Obama than his wife, but both of them are good speakers. But they brought him in because they're trying to figure out a way to separate Kamala from President Biden. So trying to separate what she has done and what her agenda will be versus his agenda, because that's the other thing that the Republicans are trying to do is loop them and put them together and everything. So what do you expect to hear from former President Obama that will help differentiate presidential candidate Kamala Harris from current President Joe Biden?
I mean, I believe that he'll just do like Biden in a sense. Talk about, okay, this is where we are. This is the things that we need to work on. This is what we're going to do moving forward. This is Trump. This is Trump's vision. This is Kamala Harris's vision. Let's go vote. He's going to say his thing, don't boo, go vote. But I think he's going to stay on that positive message. And he does a great job of, I mean, he's a phenomenal orator. But we also, I mean, we can't overlook the orators that we had last night. Jasmine Crockett put on a show. What's my man in South Carolina, the preacher? Raphael Warnock. Raphael went off last night. He was great. He took the U.S. to church. I'm sure Sasha, if you were watching, Sasha probably got up with an amen. But last night, I mean, I think the Democrat Party has some great speakers, and I think with that youth, because I think AOC has, because she speaks well. She's a great talker, and I think she brings in that youth vote. Same thing with Jasmine Crockett, bringing in that youth vote. Raphael Warnock, all doing it. Steve Kerr did a phenomenal job. All this, and I think it's going to be the same message tonight. And I think President Obama is going to do the same thing as the other ones last night. He's going to get the crowd chanting and cheering. I wish they would have pushed him. I wish they didn't have Bill Clinton there, because I think it's, again, that age.
Well,
we don't need to.
Yeah, that's what the commentators I was saying, because there were some people who basically like, why isn't Clinton out to pasture, and then he still has that albatross of what went on with the whole thing with Monica Lewinsky and all in that space, and some of the other things that he did, including some of the foreign policy decisions that he did. So they were actually, even though I hear what you're saying, Rick, that a lot of them, the former presidents are there, but I do know that some of the
at the time,
right side of politics are trying to push that is, why is he there? He shouldn't be getting ready to do like Jimmy and get ready to retire and go off into the sunset. I agree with
at the time, the Lewinsky stuff did not hurt Clinton and may have actually helped him, because people thought he was being bullied. Of course, that was before Me Too. I just found last night's TV ratings. First night of the DNC beat the RNC by 21%.
Wow.
It's a more watchable show.
Well, hey, speaking of that, Rick and Jacoby, because both of you, just like I am, are in the entertainment game. Rick, you've been on television, you've done all kinds of things, Jacoby. I am thinking that the entertainment that I have seen so far, because Morgan Gutton is a amazing performer. I think I said her name right and everything, but she is a country singer, an African American country singer. She did a good job, and there were some other top-rated entertainers. So it seems to me that the entertainment value has been stronger as well from the DNC than the RNC.
You've got, what are you saying? That what's my man who shot up the Budweisers isn't good?
Rock, you got Kid Rock.
Kid Rock's not great. Oh, what about Hulk Hogan? Who, the irony behind Hulk Hogan is so a chef's kiss. Think of it. The GOP is mad at transgender individuals because they don't want to give them pronouns and they don't want to call them by a name that the transgender individuals ask them to call. Yet they cheer on Hulk Hogan, whose name isn't Hulk Hogan, who changed his appearance for wrestling purposes. And then even worse, Hulk Hogan, his last thing was that he was fired from his last employer for his rant using the N-word and spray painting the N-word on the side of stuff. But
I didn't know that. Yeah, also, you had Amber Rose, who I barely know who she is, but she's a naked performer in addition. Yeah. And
Amber Rose, Rick, Amber Rose and her OnlyFans talking about she found her home in the GOP that wants to ban porn. Even worse, Trump. Oh, I don't know if you know about this one, Rick. Trump, when he did his racist thing, talking about he didn't know Kamala Harris was black. Amber Rose was famous for saying she's not black.
Oh, I didn't know that. James Taylor was supposed to do the DNC last night. My wife, because we're old and we like that stuff. He got cut for time, I think she was saying.
He did.
Wow.
Which is crazy because, he's huge.
Well, as I said on one of our other shows, aren't they still trying to figure out some music that Trump can actually get away with using without the artist or the artist family trying to get on their case because they did not approve it? I know that that was the case with the Case family and a number of other families as well, that they're going no, we didn't say you can use that song, but they're constantly using it. So now they may get more suits because they are.
He uses YMCA, and I think he hasn't been sued by the Village People because they barely exist. Right. They were kind of put together by a producer, and YMCA, as most people know, but maybe most MAGAs don't know, is about the YMCA used to be a notorious place to go to hook up for gay random sex.
And then add on top of it, YMCA is a celebration of diversity as well.
Yeah.
And they hate it. They're cheering on the YMCA when the YMCA is a DEI thing.
Yeah, and they like it because you can move your arms. Everybody, even a MAGA, can figure out how to make a Y with their arm.
Joey does it regularly. I was just at a game Saturday. He had a whole YMCA and everything. So, and they were going around the horn on the stadium and everything. And there was a lot of people doing the Y, the M, and the C and the A.
Yeah, I always think about what could Trump do to lose votes? Is there anything he could do? If it came out that Trump had been hooking up with rando dudes for years, would MAGAs figure out a way to say, "Oh, that's cool"?
Oh, wait a minute.
So not that he has.
No, but
it's a cult.
There is a hero of the rest of the world that has written, or there's a tell-all book being written about her, because I saw that before I came home from one of my other jobs and everything. But apparently, Queen Elizabeth, when she was living, said that she found Donald Trump to be very rude, because apparently when they were in a couple of events together, he was always looking around her as if he was trying to find the next best person to go engage with, because I guess he found her to be boring and he wanted to go find something more exciting to go talk to and everything. And she also said that she was suspect of the relationship between Melania and Donald Trump, because she said that it had to be an arranged marriage, because why else would anybody put up with Donald Trump, was her exact quote, and everything along those lines. So
we watched in our house, we watched the whole Crown, which is like kind of behind the scenes of her reign, which she reigned for 70 something years. And so like she was not stupid.
No, she wasn't stupid, but she had some notorious people that came. I mean, if you are the monarch, you will see some people that folks do not like and that have notable reputations. I think that she had state visits with people like Donald Trump, Idi Amin, Mugabe, who I think is one of the leaders out of one of the southern African countries and everything. And I think she also had a meeting, if I remember correctly, with Sasha's favorite person, Vladimir Putin. So I don't think that she had a great deal of respect.
She was the face of the British Empire. As a younger woman, they had her travel the world to meet with, all the heads of all these Commonwealth countries. She maybe met more leaders over the course of her life than anybody else.
I would agree with that and everything. And probably, like I said, some of those leaders that she met with, she did not have the greatest deal of respect for. I could be wrong, and this is slightly out of the world of politics and everything, but I know it will be recorded on Thursday, because the show will air on Saturday. Sasha, I'm thinking that when you were, and you still are, a chess master, but when you are more engaged in the chess world, I'm thinking that there were competitors, including competitors from other countries, that as individuals you did not like, but as a competitor you just had to put up with them, and all along those lines. So I'm thinking there were some competitors that you probably did not have the greatest deal of respect for them as people, but you knew that they were good competition. Am I correct in that? And how did you deal with those people that maybe you didn't like, or you had to play against them?
Well, if you're going through the history of chess, there was quite a few world champions, starting with Alohin, who was accused of collaboration with the Nazis. And he was forbidden to play in a chess tournament after the end of Second World War. And he couldn't play, although he signed a petition, and there were voices about that there has to be a free and fair trial. Unfortunately, he passed away in, I think it was April of 1946. So he never had a trial, and it's still kind of an unsolved issue whether he was collaborating. There were some articles in German and Nazi papers critical of Jewish chess players or so on, but whether he was a genuine author or it was composed by somebody else and he was just asked to sign it, that's all never was clarified. So some people believe that he collaborated, some people believe that he didn't.
So if you look at high-level chess players, if you look at people with high IQs, they've done a few studies, and it's hard to study those. I mean, because it's a weird population. The studies are not the best. But one conclusion that those studies reach is that super smart people, by these measures, that it's not correlated with better judgment. That somebody with a 130 IQ might have better judgment than somebody with an IQ of 100. But above that, it kind of just it doesn't change. You don't get better judgment by having an IQ that's. And just look at me. I have bad judgment all over the place. It's only because my wife keeps me in check that I don't do stupid shit all the time. So there's no court. So in any group of people, even though they're smart by one measure, that you're going to have a full range of people, from very reasonable, ethical people to crazy idiot, crazy creeps like Bobby Fischer did not like Jews. Bobby Fischer was crazy. And it's not that smart people are crazier than not smart people. It's just that they have a normal range of crazy to not crazy.
And he was 100% Jew from both mother and father sides. So here we go. Okay. And he was pathologically hated Jews until
Well,
the
speaking of the Jewish identity, and I know that both you, Sasha, and you, Rick, are of the Jewish descent and all of the Jewish faith and all along those lines. But Doug Emhoff, the second gentleman, who possibly could be the first ever first gentleman and everything, is putting his Jewish identity at the center of the campaign outreach. So apparently he's trying to reach out to other folks in the Jewish community. I don't know if he'll reach out to you, Sasha, because you're in Canada and your vote might not count because you're in Canada, but he might reach out to Rick because you're in LA and everything. So how
I get so many texts a day from everybody, and I just throw them all away. I mean, like, I'm sure anybody with a cell phone who's ever made any political contribution gets like. So I don't know if he's reached out because I click on and I get rid of all that stuff.
Well, he's already said that, and this will be good for a lot of people, that he will make fighting anti-Semitism a top priority if he becomes the nation's ever first gentleman. So, like he said that if his wife wins, because his exact quote is, "I love being Jewish. I love it. I love everything about it. I want to shout it from the mountaintops." And apparently, he was shouting his love from a mountaintop into a living room filled with Democratic donors in a 13th floor apartment in the West Loop of Chicago 1 week before the Democratic Party came.
So, two statistics: 3/4 of America's Jews vote Democratic, and anti-Semitic incidents are up. Even before the Israel war, they were up 300% over the past 2-3 years. So there is a need to, call out anti-Semitism. But the thing about being Jewish is that it has various official degrees. I'm sure you know lots of Christian people who never go to church except maybe on, I don't know, Christmas, if at all.
There's a lot of people that do that. They're weekend warriors that might only go to church on sometimes just the holidays. They don't even go every weekend. They will go, like you said, maybe on Christmas or maybe on Easter or some of the other holidays and everything. And then you've got the other thing that happens in the Christian faith and other faiths as well, because I have it with some of my musician friends, and I'm sure Sasha can relate to this. You have some folks that might, and even you, Rick, you out there in LA, they might live a life of what some people would consider sin and fun activity or frivolity, and things that maybe aren't exactly in the Christian.
Okay, a lot of people in showbiz
have musicians that'll play secular music as a very kind of saucy secular music during the day, but then they'll be leading their choirs or their bands.
But it's the same way with Judaism, except maybe even more so, because Judaism, you have Orthodox, and that's where you're freaking being Jewish 24/7. Then you have conservative, which is a lighter version of that. Then you have Reform, where you don't even know what you're doing to be Jewish. But when you talk about like LA being a hotbed of sin, I think that was, sure, you still have sinners in LA, but I think it was more in the 70s and 80s. It's so hard now to make a living in entertainment that you don't have any energy left over to sin. You just like the bars in New York, they're supposed to close at 4 a.m. But sometimes they go later than that, all night till sunrise. The bars in LA close at 2 a.m. by law, but a lot of times they're empty by 11:30 or 12 because people want to go to bed to get a full night's sleep for work the next day, or for job hunting, or because they're an actor, and if they don't get sleep, their face will look like crap.
But Rick, I was actually talking to a friend of mine that's a theater person. He's worked in both Chicago and Atlanta. He's not a big fan of New York. I don't think he's ever been to Los Angeles, but he feels that both of those cities, it is very difficult to get work, even though they are the hotbeds of entertainment and everything. But the people are very much rush, and a lot of times they are barely making ends meet. And all of them.
That's right.
For Chicago or Atlanta, because it's better opportunities in those two cities and everything along those lines, and the people are less suspect in the sense of like being cutthroat and all of those things. I'd
buy that. Albuquerque, where I've lived a lot, is a very kind of naive, accepting town that's also building a bunch of movie TV studios.
Right.
So yeah, I think Albuquerque, you might be able to have a career with less bullshit.
just really quickly, because I'm going to read this quote and everything, and then we only got 5 more minutes to go. But Mr. Emhoff in that fundraiser, or at least one of the other fundraisers, said this hate, this anti-Semitism is a poison. As your first gentleman, I promise you, as the first Jewish person ever to be in a White House principal, I'm going to continue this fight against anti-Semitism. If there is a rise in anti-Semitism, and some people, including Jacoby when he was here, would say that there's a rise in other forms of hate like Islamophobia and everything like that, what can a person do when they come into office to actually change the minds of some people that might have that kind of bias and that racism or that kind of just hatred for one people or another? So, Sasha, if you were to give the advice to either Kamala or others as to how they can deal with people that have that kind of mindset, what would it be?
It's a very individual question, and I don't think there is a single recipe for all situations that get aroused. You have to treat every situation as a very special and find out what's the best way to treat it.
I mean, the one thing he can do is just look the way he looks. He looks like a regular guy, and like I look pretty Jewishy. You know, I could be a rabbi. Doug Emhoff just looks like Joe. You know, he looks. He can say. I mean, he won't say it, but just by him being Jewish and looking like every other white dude in the world or in America, you know, he's probably doing a little bit to normalize Jewishness. Also, he's married to a non-Jewish lady, you know, so I don't know. I mean, I think America has calmed down about some aspects of race. I'm constantly surprised by how many ads have biracial couples, because there's money in those couples, because you throw them in an ad and you get to hit 2 different demographics. So advertisers love that.
Yeah, but Rick, you mentioned that a couple of times on a couple of different shows. I have actually, because I've got friends that are involved in those situations. My dad can go from either being somewhat non-religious to maybe being Christian-like on some cases. I think he might have even been considered himself agnostic at one point in his life, and he married, well, he hasn't married, but he's been in a long-term relationship with a Jewish woman. I know another young lady that is Christian, was raised Christian, and her husband is a Muslim and everything. So I have seen a lot of people, not just that are dating across race, but are also dating across religion. And I know some religions are more specific that you have to stay within that religion.
Do the people you know, are they cool, chill dudes and dudettes? Would you say your dad's a cool guy?
They're very cool, even with the way that they maintain their relationship. Like I said,
I would say that when advertisers or TV producers or movie producers put biracial couples in, it automatically makes those people seem extra cool. Look, we're able to do this. We're able to handle whatever issues we have as a biracial couple. We're chill, and our product is chill. And if you use our product, you're cool and you're chill.
Yep, there seems to be some of that going on. Like I said, I've known a couple of them, even some that have been Eastern and Western religions. Not so much Muslim and Christians, but I think I even knew somebody who was Hindu, and I think their other half was, or Buddhist, and their other half was more in one of the Christian religions and all of those lines. But yeah, I do think a lot of people are crossing the boundaries of the different divisions, whether that's race, whether that's religion, whether that's even some age folks. I've known a couple of folks that had those May-December relationships where one person, I think that it can maybe get, I don't know what your thoughts are, Rick, maybe it can get creepy if it's too far of an age difference, but 10, 15 years, people can probably work with that and everything. Now you get down to 20 or 30 years, you might be getting into the creepy vibe and all along those lines, because then you're almost, even if you don't have kids, you're at what could have been your kid's age if you had kids.
That's another instance where Trump gets a free ride. I think Melania's mom is only like 2 years older than Trump.
Exactly. Yep. And yeah, because their child is now, I think next year he'll turn 20. I think Byron will turn 20 and everything. And I think, like you said, she's in her, I want to say she's in her 50s, either early 50s or late 40s or something like that.
I think she's in her 50s now, because Trump is 78.
Right. So yeah. So there's like vast age difference between them and everything. But this has been a fun conversation. We'll be back with world politics on Thursday, and I know that tomorrow at 1:00 we'll have Modern Investment. I'll probably be doing that from the home, even though World Edition I'll be doing from the HTAS Center. But definitely we'll have both of those shows on, so I know you'll have some interesting investment tips, and we're going to see how NVIDIA is doing, because Sasha keeps making a killing off of NVIDIA. He won't teach us his secrets because he's just keeping it to himself.
He says his secrets. He tells us what to do. We just don't listen.
Yeah, we just don't listen. Exactly.
All right. Bye.
That's
Bye.
it.
Take
Bye.
it easy.